right, welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Chasing Ghosts. This is the video series where I talk about those hard to find, those impossible to find comics, those things you really got to do some research, you got to track down, you got to hunt, you got to dig, you really got to do some work to get some of these books because they are pretty tough to find in a lot of cases. Now, this is technically the 75th episode of this series, not counting two Star Wars specials that were unnumbered that I did outside of it, but 75 episodes is a lot, and for that, I do have a special topic to cover for that, but we'll get to that in a minute. Hopefully you're still enjoying this series as well as everything else on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything, and if you want to see the selection of books that I got for you this week for our 75th episode, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. All right, so for 75 episodes of Chasing Ghosts, let's look at Marvel's 75th anniversary Alex Ross covers. Yes, Alex Ross, a classic. Classic. His covers are iconic. They are immediately recognizable, and it's surprising to say, like, a lot of his covers are underappreciated and maybe even undervalued, depending on how you look at it. It's just they're just fantastic. Now, we're going to be looking at that 75th anniversary for Marvel, so it's just a few years ago. And with that, most of the titles that Marvel was releasing at the time came out with not only a 1 in 75 variant that was a color version, but then they came out with even rarer black and white versions. So those are the ones we're really going to focus in on, are the black and white versions. So with that, let's get into it with our first book. And these are going to go chronological upon release because they basically released one a month. So we're going to be covering 12 issues, one each month, starting with The Avengers. Yes, The Avengers. Like my hat, like my shirt, The Avengers. Number 25. This is the 1 in 75. Again, gorgeous Alex Ross color version, 1 in 75. But as I noted, the black and white is the rarer of the two. And the black and white, in this case, it's a 1 in 200. 1 in 200 for January of 2014. So these, again, 2014? What is that? 8 years ago now. Jeez. 8 years ago, at least. Oh, man. Time flies. But this 1 in 200 is going to be our first book that we start off with. And the only 1 in 200 of our group. Granted, the print run, not too bad, not too low. So 65,000 estimated print run is going to put our incentive down to only about 327 copies. I call some of these into question. We'll get into that a little bit more later. But again, these are estimated numbers. I'm not saying these are set in stone, that these are definitive in any way. This is just based on the information that's available. This is the Comic-Con estimated print run, as well as the ratio, which you do that ratio math, would give us a ballpark estimate on what could be out there. Again, not set in stone. And like I said, we'll touch on that in a little bit. But with this book, we do have 71 copies in the CGC census. This we can say and we can see here. You can see all the numbers, 3598s, 2396s, and a few others. Now, this is a book that, despite it only having 327 copies out there, plenty have sold. Here are some examples, and they sell for pretty cheap. $31 with 9 bids, $26 with 10 bids, a 9.8 best offer on $170 for a 1 in 200 variant. So that is another tip-off that maybe there are more of these than we're ballpark estimating. I know there were some tales of, Pallets and Diamond having all these leftover incentive variants. I don't know if they're extra printed, ones that just didn't go to shops because shops didn't order enough, or what. But there are all those stories of the 5 and belows getting these hard to find high incentive ratios, et cetera, et cetera. Then there's some more recent tales of Walmart getting them in their little packs. So who knows where some of these things end up when all is said and done. Again, we're just basing our information off of what's available and making our best guesses at it. That said, if you did want this book, you can find it. There are plenty of these out there. Granted, $45 to $50 raw, and a 9.8 now is about 280. At least that's what's available. So still a quarter of the ratio price. A quarter. To be fair, I do prefer the color versions of all of these. But I've said it many times before. I do prefer the color versions over black and whites and over sketches. It's just my personal preference. There are some sketches in black and whites that I do like, despite that, that generality. I like Jim Lee's sketches. I do like Alex Ross. This is fantastic black and white sketch work, but it still is a sketch. It still seems unfinished. I prefer the finished product with all the colors and the lighting and all that stuff. That's just my personal preference. That said, these are still the rarer versions, but despite that, still relatively cheap when you figure that's the 1 in 200. All right, that was our first book. Let's get in on to our second book here, going to February. This is Fantastic Four, the FF, the first family of Marvel. 1 in 75 here. You can see this is when the title got revamped a little bit, and pretty cool cover, right? I mean, it's gorgeous stuff, and it's even gorgeous in black and white. And this, like the rest of our books on the list, is a 1 in 300. So 1 in 300 incentive ratio for this Alex Ross in February 2014. So the Avengers are only 1 in 200. This is 1 in 300. Print run on this is about the same as the Avengers, so about 65,000 thereabouts. But since it's a 1 in 300 instead of 1 in 200, there are only potentially 219 copies. That seems low, right? It just seems too low to be the actual number. But it's our best guess estimate. That's what we got to work with. It just seems low, but it's a 1 in 300. It's got to be hard to find, right? Well, there's 82 of them in the census. So if there are only 200 or so, a little over 200, almost half of them are graded. Also, not crazy when you think about the fact that most of the places that would have ordered 300 copies to get one of these know that it's a 1 in 300 and probably got it, sub to get graded. Even the person who might have bought it from that LCS or that shop online probably got it with the intentions of getting it graded. So maybe it's not a crazy idea that almost half of them are in the CGC census. But let's not forget, CBCS exists too. So this is only the one side of the grading census. So there are other books out there. Anyway, 47 9/8, 21 9/6, and then a few others is what we've got in the CGC census. This particular issue, this 1 in 300 Fantastic Four, that we're estimating only having about 200 copies, had none sold recently. So there was no copies I could find that had sold within the last 3 months. And when I looked to see what was available, I only found one. And it wanted $200. So still under ratio, but still $200. So that's what's out there. If you were looking for this one, just keep that in mind. Up next, heading on over to March. Daredevil, 1 in 75. Once again, the art speaks for itself. I shouldn't have to tell you it's gorgeous, because it is. You can see it. And not only is the colored painted version gorgeous, you got battling Jack Murdoch there. You got the sonic, the sonic awareness. I guess I don't know whatever we call Daredevil's. I'm drawing a blank for whatever his radar sense. It being depicted here on this cover as well. But fantastic, and it even looks good in black and white. This is again a 1 in 300, March of 2014. Estimated print run on this one's a little higher at 76,000. So that still means there's only potentially 253 of these. Again, estimated number based off of what we have available to us. In the census, only 110. So it's still pretty close to half of them graded. Again, in the CGC census, 64 9/8, 36 9/6, and then a few others. Copies sold on this. Well, we did have a few, more than the three I show here, and they're all selling for around $40, like $40, $42, $45. at auction with bids. Now, this one here in the middle, I bought that. In fact, I got it right here. Yeah, this was in one of my pickup videos because I ordered it while planning this one out ages ago. And like I said, I like it. I like Daredevil, and I like the the Alex Ross art on that. Granted, what I paid, $42 plus shipping. So paid, I don't even know what the ratio of that, 1/6 ratio. If you figured about $50, all said and done for 1 in 300, seemed reasonable to me. Figured why not? Took a shot. And if you figure that's one of potentially 250 whatever copies, it should be pretty tough to find. But you still have copies available. If you want to go shopping, there are 3. Granted, not a ton, but there's still worth 3 in this case that I found. A 9.8 asking about 250, raw asking about 200, and then there was a CGC signature raw sketch that's asking 525. So definitely, it's not a cheap one. Not like the Avengers. That Avengers one is pretty darn cheap at $40. But then again, I paid about $40 for mine. So there are cheap copies that could show up occasionally. Just none right now. Just not at the moment. So maybe if you're interested, be patient. Going on to our 4th month, April. Month of April, we're hitting up The Amazing Spider-Man. Once again, Alex Ross, classic. It's 75th anniversary, so there's like images from their origins and the backgrounds of all these. If you hadn't noticed with the other covers, great stuff. So you got, the original criminal who murdered Uncle Ben and Aunt May there. You got Mary Jane, Daily Bugle, him getting bit. All this stuff in the background. It's like telling a story in this gorgeous piece of art. 1 in 75 for The Amazing Spider-Man #1. And then there's the black and white version, the 1 in 300. It's got the cool little 75th anniversary logo. April 2014. This is a 1 in 300. This is also the issue that technically has the first Cindy Moon in it because this is that story. This is the one where, yes, she shows up more in issue 4 of Amazing Spider-Man, but this is #1 where she does have that one little bit of a cameo of sorts before we know what's going on. But a huge print run on this one, 532,000 plus. So even at a 1 in 300, there are still potentially almost 1,800 copies of this thing out there. I mean, 500,000 copies were printed of this book. Craziness. Plenty of them out there. Plenty of them in the census. 487 of them, to be exact right now. 289 9/8s, 159 9/6s, and then a bunch of others, rounding out that 487. There's almost 500 graded copies. What's available? What's sold? Raw copy sold for $200, but at the same time, a 9/8 only sold for $83 at auction. Wildly inconsistent pricing here. And then there was a CGC signature that had 28 bids for $553. So decent sale there as well. But signature series, that kind of not messes, but it throws things off because it's not apples to apples anymore. Because depending on who the signature is, it could drive the price one way or another. But $200 for a raw copy back in August, and then in October, same thing. Even with the UK, with $30 shipping thereabouts, at $83, still almost half price that somebody paid in October. So wildly inconsistent sales here. And there's more. These are just my examples. And then we have what's available for this particular book, and there are plenty of these available as well, more than what I'm sharing here. 9/6 only wants about $100. 9/8 signature series, about 300. And then you had a 9/4, about 175. I think all the copies I found here were graded, but with almost 500 of them graded, it's not too surprising. But I'm sure there's a raw copy here or there that I might have missed. It's just there's plenty of them. Like I said, there's almost 2,000 of these if you do even the 1 in 300 math on that 500,000 print run. So plenty of the Amazing Spider-Man ones out there. But let's move on to the month of May. And we're going to have all new X-Men. Yes, classic. Again, classic X-Men cover, Alex Ross. Kind of dig the whole kind of dancing vibe we have here, as they have the original X-Men kind of up in the front, and then the newer generation of X-Men following up behind them. And there's 1 in 75. But here's the black and white. You can actually see it a bit clearer than you could maybe in the color version, as they're not as well. I mean, they are faded, but the levels aren't as distinctly different when you're looking at the sketch version of this. That said, this is also a 1 in 300, May 2014. By now, yeah, they're all Alex Ross. Again, all Alex Ross, so I'm not going to repeat that anymore. Print run's only about 62,000, so potentially 207 copies. So all the way down to 207 copies. Again, I don't know if this is accurate or not. It just seems unreasonable to me for them to print that few of a book like this. 80 in the census. All right, but still close to half. With 72 9/8s, only 2 9/6s, 3 9/4s, and then a couple others. But what's sold for this? We had more than these 3 sales, and this is another book that's moved for as little as 40 in the 40s, $46 with 18 bids back in October. Best offer on $75 raw. Best offer on $245 in a 9/8 SS. So once again, not a pricey one, even though this is potentially only about 200 copies. It's priced less than the Spider-Man, which has potentially 2,000 copies. Well, not 2,000, it's 1,800, but you know what I'm saying. It's still a wide difference between the two books, potentially. And the prices also aren't really that close. I don't know. It's weird. That said, what's available? What's available on this one? Right now, if you want to go shopping, about $95 for a raw copy at a 9/8 will cost you anywhere from $300 to $450. Again, more than this available, which is also surprising. I was surprised to see how many of these actually have multiple copies available, considering how low the print runs could be for these 1 in 300s. But what can you do? It is what it is. This is what's out there. So it causes me to question a little bit. But moving on to June, hitting up the halfway point. Savage Hulk, #1. Again, Thunderbolt Ross, Hulk, a lot of good stuff here. 1 in 75 is the color version. And like I said, I do prefer the colors on these, but sketch still ain't bad. Sketch is still pretty good. And it is a 1 in 300. It is from June 2014, or Alex Ross. The print run on this one is also only about 44,000. So Savage Hulk was not a big deal at this time. So even with a new #1, 44,000 would give us only about 147 copies of this. Potentially, if our 1 in 300 ratio is right, and if the estimated print run of 44,000 is right, 147 copies of this, with 124 of them graded in the CGC census, with 114 9.8s, 3 9/6s, 5 9/4s, etc., etc. All but about 20 copies of this are in the CGC census. That's not accounting for not just the raw copies that could be out there of this, but there's also CBCS, Halo. Anybody want to overseas do Halo? PGX even. If anybody got this graded by PGX, there's only about 20 copies available for them. That just doesn't seem right, right? It just calls me into question, these numbers. But again, these are estimates. Just because that's what would have been estimated doesn't mean that was what actually was produced, and actually how many made it into the populace. That said, we still only had one sale. Oh no, 2 sales. I'm sorry. 3 bids, $48, and a 9/8 best offer on $200. So again, well under ratio. Maybe it's the sketch. Maybe people aren't really a fan of the sketches on these. So despite the high ratios, they're just not really digging the sketches, because I think some of the 1 in 75 sell pretty close to these because they're a nicer cover. Again, I prefer the color. But that said, even with 147, there were still more than the 3 I'm sharing here available. A 9/8, only $170. This was over the weekend, so that auction probably ended. Don't even know if I even got a bid. $170 for a 9.8 of this 1 in 300 book that potentially has less than 150 copies, which again, call into question, because with that 150 copies, 120 of them were in the CGC census. So here we go with 2 raws. So 10% of the rest of the population is sitting right here for $115 and $125. I don't know. Call into question again. And there's more copies than this. Not many more, but there were a couple more. But these are my examples I wanted to share. Just something to think about. Captain America, #22. Not every issue that we're dealing with here was an anniversary or a #1. This is just a random issue 22, because that's where we were with Captain America. And this is the 1 in 75. Again, classic Steve Rogers. You show him joining the Avengers. You have him with the Invaders. And then the iconic image just standing there behind. Gorgeous. As is the sketch. As is the sketch. So the 1 in 75 color version, 1 in 300 black and white. Now we're at July, Independence, and all that stuff. So I guess that's why they picked Cap for this potential, for this particular month. Print run only down to about 34,000 for Captain America, which would make our incentive as little as 115 copies. 115 copies. And yet, in the CGC census, we have 108 copies. Only 7 of them are not graded by CGC. So there's only 7 raw, a mixture of raw, PGX, CBCS, and any other randos out there. Only 7, because the rest are accounted for in the census. Even if you think about books getting cracked and reslapped as they get bumped up, there are only 16 9.6s and there are 86 9.8s. So even if you cracked and reslap all the rest of those 86, if there's only 115, that still only leaves 30 copies unaccounted for. Doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem right. But those are the numbers, and this is what we're working with, which is why, once again, I'm doing it this whole show, reminding you, estimated. These are just estimated. We don't know for certain, because I got to believe they printed more than 115 copies of this. Just doesn't make sense that for them to have done less. Just doesn't. Doesn't add up. Yet, copies sell for $50 or so. You can see the raw copies still only sell for about $50, 9.8, $200. Available copies, you'd think I couldn't find any if there's only about 100 of them. Nope, there's plenty. There's more than what I'm showing you here. 9/8 asking anywhere from $350 to $250 to $350, and then there's a raw, $185. So they're not cheap of what's available, but cheap ones do sell. So they got to be coming from somewhere, right? Moving on, Guardians of the Galaxy up next. Yes, they have the original team in the background and then the newer squad that we know more from the movies here up front. But 1 in 75, black and white version as well, 1 in 300. This is August of 2014. This one, print run bumps up to about 60,000, so potentially 202 copies. But as we know, don't know if we can trust these numbers. That said, there's only 70 in the census for this one. So there's not really that really tight margin. But still, 49 9/8. 13 9.6s, and then a few others. Still don't know if they only made 200 of these. It just seems unreasonable. I don't know. Just to me, it just doesn't seem right. Copies, once again, $40 to $50. Raw copies are selling. That seems to be a running theme here with a lot of these 1 in 300s, that they only sell for about $40 to $50 raw at auction when they sell. And then you'll have the random 9.8 that could be anywhere in the, like this one, about $150 range to like $200 range. And then some best offers here or there. But that's what it seems like we're looking at for most of these books. And the available copies here, it's again, we've got more than the 3 I'm showing you. So more than the 3. So this is, again, another surprise on my part. I thought when I had these on my to-do list, I thought these were going to be really, really tough to find, considering how high the ratios were. But I was surprised to see that they are not. Not only are they not that hard to find, when they do sell, they sell for relatively cheap when you figure out the ratios. Here we go. We had an auction that had still had a couple of days. It was ending, Tuesday, ending today when this is airing. $40 was the starting bid. So it's probably another one that would have ended in that $40, $50 range, if anything. Maybe it didn't even get a bid. A 9.0 only wanted $85. A 9.8 looking for about that $250. So again, story seems pretty consistent for most of these. And the print runs are pretty consistent in most cases too. Even when we get to the death of Wolverine. Yes, I can't believe the death of Wolverine was that long ago, right? It doesn't seem like this was, what year is this again? 2014? Just doesn't seem right. Like, I feel like this was just like 2 years ago, not 8 years ago. But death of Wolverine, 1 in 75, Alex Ross. Then we have the sketch. Pretty cool here too as well. You got even the classic image with the Hulk, the Battle 181's first appearance back there, and you got the X-Men down below. Pretty cool. 1 in 300. This is September of 2014. We have a print run of a healthy 261,000, which could mean our incentive could be as high as 873. So close to 900 for this particular one because it was printed pretty well. Only half of the Spider-Man, but still, Death of Wolverine was again a big deal as far as print run goes. As they had a lot of variants and a lot of covers. But this variant in particular has 160 in the CGC census. But at about 900, 160 in the census, that doesn't seem off. That seems about right to me in my brain. 72 9/8, 59 6s, 25 9/4s, a pretty even spread there as far as those higher grades go. Copies sold, I only found one, a 9/8 that got $325 thereabouts, plus shipping out of the UK. Not too bad. And once again, more than my 3 examples were available. And my 3 examples are $200 raw, $315 to $350 for 9/8. So again, story is pretty. We can't say completely consistent because $200 raw is a bit more than those $40 and $50 ones, but you still see a kind of a theme. You still see kind of a running thread going through these. But we're going to keep it rolling as we're moving on near the end. We're wrapping things up, hitting up Thor. This is the one in 75, Rainbow Bridge, all that good stuff. Warriors 3 in the background there. Gorgeous black and white as well. 1 in 300, October 2014. So we got a couple of months left before we wrap up the 75th anniversary year from Marvel. 150,000 for this one. This Thor one. This is the Jane Foster Thor that we also got around this time. So the incentive is maybe just around 500. Decent amount. Yeah. Healthy 175 in the census too on this one. And I think that also is partly due to, again, the Jane Foster Thor bit probably driving this one up a bit more, a bit more than you would have expected. More subs when we got all those Love and Thunder news when it was coming, back when it was coming, and everything was looking at the lead up to Jane Foster coming in as Thor. Now, in retrospect, a lot of people just think, and even myself included, we're a little bit let down by Love and Thunder, but still entertaining. It just left a little bit to be desired. That said, 175 in the census. Plenty of copies sold. I found 4 that sold. Bunch of them 9/8s. Actually, they're all 9/8s. Anywhere from $300 to $400, basically. Available copies. Once again, more than the 3 that I'm showing you. So $175 to $300 raw, and then a 9/8 asking $600. So this one is not cheap. Probably still some of those Jane Foster asks are out there, looking for that Jane Foster premium. But be that as it may, we're going to go on to November with our Superior Iron Man. A lot of different armors there, going from original 2099. Was it 2099? Not 2099. Why can't I think of it? You know the one I'm talking about. 2020. Iron Man 2020. And then we got, the classic there in the middle. But 1 in 75 for the color. Then we have the black and white, which we know is a 1 in 300. Already mentioned it's November. Print run about 83,000, so decent on the higher end. But only 279 potentials. I guess, I don't know. I just feel like all these would have to be around the 500 range. I don't know. But there's only 41 of this one in the census. So, maybe. 26 9/8s, 8 9/6s, and then a couple others to round out that 41. Copies sold. There's more than the 3. One sold for as cheap as $20, $19.42 with 2 bids. One of these sold for $19. Best offer on $69 for another raw, and then one of those 9/8s sold for a best offer on $300. Seems more in line with the others, but $19. Jeez. Then we get to what's available. Here's 4, and there's even more than these 4 available. And the reason why I showed these 4 is because I wanted to give you that range of 150 to 300 raw. The asking price is $150 to $300 raw, but yet one sold for $19 not that long ago at auction. I feel like these ones might sit. And then $500 for that 9/8. 9/8. It's a 9/6. So $500 for that 9/6. Good luck. Good luck on this one because, again, this just doesn't seem to be the demand for these. Just doesn't seem to be. I bought one, but I bought it because it was cheap, at least cheap to me. But now that seems to be like the going rate that you can get these 1 in 300s for like $40, $50 or $20 if you're really patient. But last one, Uncanny X-Men. Again, one of my favorites. I love the X-Men. They're one of my favorite groups. I mean, apart from Silver Surfer, X-Men is probably the other huge driving force in the comic collector that I am today. So there's 1 in 75. We even got not even got Thunderbird back there. I was about to say Warpath, but it's not Warpath. It's his brother Thunderbird back there in the background. You got the original giant size X-Men squad here. Sunfire down below. Pretty cool. Love this image. Love this cover. Love the black and white too. Especially Storm. She really pops even in the black and white, the sketch, because the black uniform really helped these pencils shading her in and kind of pulling her out from from the rest. But that said, this one also December 2014, 1 of 300. Print run, solid 53,000. Not too high, not too low. It's kind of right in that solid middle, but under 200 for the incentive potentially. 178. Guess I can't. I don't know. I'm just not buying these numbers. It just doesn't fit. Doesn't seem right. Though there are only 54 in the census for this X-Men book. 49.8s, 99.9s, and then a few others getting us to that 54. So maybe that number is close when it's under 200. But even with that, copies sell for, again, more than these three examples. $40 to $80 raw at auction. All these at auction. Surprise! I guess the best offers don't sell, and I guess the auctioneers here, and some of these are the same seller, so they had multiple copies, which again leads me to believe pallets. Moving on to what's available on this one. The asking prices on this one are much steeper because for $40, I'm in. I wanted this one for $40. I wanted to put it with my Daredevil, but the ones I found are more in the $260, $200, $365 raw, $275 9.8. Yeah, $275 for a 9.8 or $260 and $365 raw. Which do you buy? I don't know. If you do have any of these listings, perhaps you should look and consider reevaluating if you actually want to sell the book, because I don't think you're going to win that battle. Go to My Comic Shop, and that's the other thing. That $275 9.8 is at My Comic Shop. So if you go to My Comic Shop directly, it's even cheaper because you don't have to pay the eBay upcharge because they have to account for the eBay fees. So another little tip for you: if you see MCS orders, they probably have them over on their own site, and you can get it for a tiny bit cheaper. But that's it. That's our list. Those were 12 months for the 75th anniversary for our 75th episode of Chasing Ghosts. And with that, we had a pile of what we're going to be calling hard to find, because while some of these, like my Daredevil, only had 3 copies available, most of these had multiples, like half a dozen, and if not more. And considering how low these print runs are supposed to be, I was shocked. I was shocked by that. So who knows? Can't trust the numbers. I don't know if on this one. At least I don't trust the numbers on this one. But that said, surprisingly, there was one. There was one. Fantastic Four had that one copy. So this was the only one that I feel justified, especially considering there was also, I don't think, any sales. So no sales, one copy available. I'm good calling this one a ghost because, like, again, there's only the one out there. So that's what we got for this week. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Also, let me know what you think about how many you think are made of these books, because again, we do the math on what's available. Doesn't add up. Doesn't add up right. There's too many in the census on a couple of these books for these numbers to work. So with that said, thanks for checking this out. Thanks for stopping by. Again, 75 episodes is a good long while. We'll be at 100 before we know it, I guess, because I still got plenty more books. I still got a pile of things to cover. Hopefully you're still enjoying this, and hopefully you're still enjoying everything else on the channel. Hit me up in the comment section, and come back tomorrow for the tax show. And I will try to get a Dollarman video out for Thanksgiving, but it might come late. Who knows? I don't know what we're doing, but as we go through these holidays, my schedule might be a little thrown off, so bear with me. And with that, I do have a plan to do some more giveaways right after the holiday here, the Thanksgiving holiday. So keep an eye out on the channel for that, because I think I still got a lot of stuff that I could give away to you guys. So if you like free stuff, come watch the videos. Go tell your friends so they can go join in on the fun too. And with that, I'll see you guys later with some more content. All right? Bye.